Hello and welcome to this review for The Amazing Adventures of Kavalier and Clay. It's been a while since I did a bunch of these book review, and I'm looking forward to doing more of these. This book took me about a month to finish. It's not that big. Oh, great! It's not ruining. It's not that big actually. Like I've had bigger door stoppers that I've done. This one's pretty solid, but it did take me a month just because of other like life in obligations, and because it did take me a month, I kind of wonder if that affected my like review of the book. But let's get into what the story is about. So the story is about two Jewish cousins in 1940 America, and they're starting this comic book business where they're selling comic stories to like a magazine, something like that, or a publishing company. I think that's better, right? Publishing company. And it's pretty cool. Like one of them is born in America, one of them comes from Prague, and they live together and they try to get this going. And it's very interesting how they get the comic book story going. There is other stuff that happens, like this is in the 1940s we mentioned, so that's before like that Nazi World War II, and that is a big part because remember, these are Jewish people in America, there's a Nazi war going on, it's a big part of the story. We even go to different settings, like a lot of it is based in the US, but we have like we start with Prague, there's scenes in the war, there's we move in a bit of a time skip, so there's a lot of different settings in the book. It's not just like located in one place all the time. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I will discuss what I like about the book first. Firstly, I really enjoyed the relationship between the two cousins, the way they work together, the way they sort of have this really solid opinion of each other, the relationship, like it's really good, you know, and it's nicely done. And I feel like it's one thing that I don't see enough in books of, like, you know, we see like stories between brothers and sisters and stuff, but like cousins who are close, like friends, and it's good. It's really good. And there's also a wonderful I think her name is Rosa character. She fits in with both of them in a way. It's not a love triangle in any way, but it's a very interesting way to fit it. I love that because so many stories, when they have like two guys and a girl or two girls and a guy, it always becomes some sort of love story, even if they're related, not like related, but you know what I mean. So this was really well done, the relationship between, I would say, the main three characters. So that was really cool. The stuff about writing comic books is fascinating. Not only from that, like, it's not something I've ever thought about. How do they write comics? And they sit and they give it to you quite well. The way they like pencil in things, and they discuss the way one of them does the story, one of them does the art, how that works together very nicely. There's other characters involved. We see actually some real life characters, like not like personalities in that. So it's pretty cool. I enjoyed it. I really thought that was really good. And not only that, but it expands on it later, like when they say, oh, what about movie rights and radio rights and things like that. And there's the business aspect of, I created the character, but I did sign something that's saying it's yours, can I still get more money? Which is really good. Like, it's really well done. Everything the comic related is good. And I really enjoyed that this is 1940. Now it's like that's almost 100 years ago, and you can see the world was different, and there were different values and stigmas and ethics and the way they see things and sensibilities. There is like that, and it's really good to see that, but it will also make some people a bit uncomfortable. I'll go on that a bit later. And I also want to praise the writing overall. Like, he writes really well. What's his name? I saw it, Michael Chabon? Cabone? I don't know how it's pronounced. But he writes it really well. Like, you can read it and you can feel like this is very good. It is on the heavy side sometimes, I feel like other books, I feel like I can read them more, like for longer periods. But here, I usually would read this in like hour bites, you know, more than that. And I don't know why, but I would stop. It's not there's nothing against it, it's just somehow that's how it felt to me. But it's very well written. Now I'm gonna go to stuff that I would say are either mixed or bad, depending on how you feel like it. Now, I did mention that there are two main like cousins, right? And they get a lot of attention each, but one of them certainly gets more attention than the other. Like, there's no doubt that we get a little bit more story of one than the other, and it's arguably the less interesting of the two. Not saying that he's not interesting, but he is slightly less. Sometimes I feel like I kind of want to know what the other guy's doing a little bit more than I want to know about him. So having two characters, but this is a personal thing. I think some people might enjoy the character which I find slightly less interesting. They'll be like, oh, I like his experiences more. And that's perfectly fair, it does start slow. We do spend like 70 pages in Prague of learning what's going on, and it's fine. It's not bad, but it's a bit of a slow start. And it's only once we get to the United States, where the two characters meet, that I feel like the story really starts, like the main story begins. And until then, it's not a slog. It's not a slog in any way, but it's less interesting. You feel like we're gonna leave here. I'm not sure how much I should care about this. And I didn't mention that I really love the way that this is written. However, there is a problem here. I don't know if it's a personal problem. Some people, I probably have this as well, where sometimes you open a page and there's like paragraphs on paragraphs of description of things and buildings and roads and settings and stuff. And sometimes I'm like, I kind of like, your dialogue is so good. I want more of your, people talking and relationships. I don't need to know how the elevators work. I don't need to know how big a building is or who built it or the piping. It's just not that relevant to my interests. And again, I don't know if this is, I'm not saying this is a negative, but it is something that for me, I don't like. And I'm sure some people might not like it. Some people will be like, yo, I love this sort of stuff. Now, there's also another thing, which is that the ending to me was very surprising. Not in that it's a bad ending, but because I think I reached like, I'm trying to find the page, something like this. Like I had this, like, I don't know if you guys can see it, but like, you can't see it. Yeah, like I had like 30 or something, 40 pages left, and then the book was over. And I was like, what? It's all acknowledgements or something like that. It's not. I thought I had more story to go. Maybe 40 pages. I mean, it's like 15 or 20. I thought I had more stories to go because the ending, there's like, no one's really settled in the ending. We're kind of like almost there, and then we're not. And you go, huh, okay. It's kind of like if you watch Lord of the Rings, and I know, spoilers, loading, and it ends the moment Frodo throws the ring into the fire, and you see the ring melt. You're like, I know the ring melted, but what happens to everyone else? And this is sort of like that, where it's like, it's over. That's it. It's done. We're out. And I would have liked 5-10 more pages of an epilogue telling us where everyone is, but that we don't get that. I don't also think that every setting was good. I did mention that we have bunches. We were in Prague, in the U.S., and the war, and the time skip, things like that. But it's not all of them are interesting. Some of them aren't, and that's kind of the weakness I mentioned. One character gets more attention, and he gets the weaker setting, and it's like, it's fine. And last thing is not really, it's not a mixed or bad thing, but it's something that I feel like people should know, or maybe shouldn't, I don't know, but it's not a spoiler, but if you can skip the next like 30 seconds or whatever, which is that there is a graphic scene that's going to make some people very uncomfortable, and it kind of caught me by surprise. It's not very graphic, to be fair with you. It's not like graphics, but it's like a very, I imagine it's going to be very traumatic for people who may have in any sort of experience with that. And so a lot of it was dealing with the stigmas in 1940, and it caught me by surprise. And I was like, oh man, it felt very hard to read that. I think that, I don't know, it's like, do you want to know, like, should people know this or not going in? But there's definitely moments that will make you feel very squeamish in the book. He does not shy away from some of the harsh realities of the time. And I thought that was good to have in the book to see it, but also very uncomfortable to read it and be like, yeah, it sucks that this was like there and that happens. Oh, and also the Nazis are bad in this book. I don't know, in the current political climate, apparently that seems to be a bad thing to say, but I'll say it that the book says Nazis are bad. You go with that however you want. Now, at the end of the book, I'd like to say, do I recommend the book? Because the highest praise I can give to a book is saying, I think others should read it. That's like the highest thing I can say. I think this is not only good enough for my time, it's good enough for your time. Now here, and that's where my biggest problem has happened with Kavalier and Clay. It's not that the book is bad. I think the book is really, really solid. That's not, pretty good, really solid, whatever you want to call it. But I don't know who I can ever recommend this to. Who can I go to and be like, this is a book you should read? Because it's so different. It's got like comic book writing is a main theme. Is that something you've ever thought about? I don't think so. And the characters are interesting, but it's also mixed bag of stuff. It's very hard for me to figure out what kind of person wants to read this, even though it's a good book. And that's my biggest issue with Kavalier and Clay. I don't know who it's aimed at. I enjoyed it, but I can't like go to someone and be like, yo, I think this is the perfect book for you. So that's if you've liked what you've heard, go and read it. If you don't like what you heard, don't. But for me to recommend it is very hard. And I honestly just can't. Not because it's a bad book, but because I just feel like it's a little all over the place. It doesn't really stick to one main idea or thing. Like it does, but it's got many sub-ideas and things like that. So very solid book. I really enjoyed my time. If you like this review, check it out. If you don't. It's like, it's fine. Whatever this book has, there's probably something else someone has done a little bit better if it's more your thing. You know what I mean? But yeah. And if you like the video, please let me know so I can make more of these. And yeah, have a good time. Bye-bye.